Hello there, welcome to part 3 of the Dwarfs Abridged campaign, where in the previous part we finished off the Bretonnians pretty easily, but then things got more messy. We were fighting the beastmen and the orcs in our area. The beastmen killed our second army and razed one of our settlements. The orcs also razed one of our settlements, and they've got another one under siege. However, coming to our rescue, it's the skeletons. They attacked the orcs that are currently laying siege to this castle. So here we go, we're going to take the garrison out to try and win this battle. The skeletons aren't going to wait around, they're just going to charge into the fight. That will make things a bit harder for us. But it's okay if they die. Whatever they're going to do is going to help us out, no doubt. Well, this isn't very helpful actually. They're going to charge in with their skeleton cav uphill against the boars, and they immediately start losing that fight. I had this vague memory that the boars might be an anti-infantry unit, but they seem to do very well against those skeleton cav and kill them, taking barely any damage along the way. At least the skeleton archers will have a bit of a better time, I presume anyway. Against these savage orcs with no shielding and little armor, archers should be good against them. Here they go out of their way to make a bad move. They almost stopped those boars with spears, quickly swapping them for swords at the last second just to make sure it goes badly. Here things are a bit better. Those spears will be fighting some boars, that's going to help. And here a generic melee begins. Looks like they're going to be fighting slightly uphill across the board. Who knows what that actually does, but it's probably a bad thing. As for us, we're starting to sneak into the fight. We're going to be sniping along the enemy flank. Our goal will be to focus down single units. This is a pretty good situation overall for our shooting playstyle, because by having all of our units fire at the odd 1 or 2 enemy units, we can kill them super fast and then shuffle forwards a bit more. So as long as we have some time, we can make our way across the battlefield. Although it's going to be not quite as good as it seems, just because while we're shooting them a lot, by the looks of it, the shots coming from the legionnaires don't do very much damage. They have something like 30 damage, which is not very much for a gun unit, and they don't have much ammo either. It's the scouts behind them doing the real damage. They have like 150 or something and more range and ammo. Things go okay for us, broadly speaking, but we're starting to run out of time. We've still got plenty of the orc army to get through, and the skeletons are just all over the place. Their units are going downtown, their commander's getting killed somewhere out there as well. We're at least keeping the balance bar a bit even by adding some more kills to the skeletons' not particularly good performance. They're going down at this stage. Here was a particularly nice image of this orc war boss just not having a care in the world as he strides merrily amongst the skeletons. They're trying to kill him, but they themselves are just dying due to their lack of dark magic and such. And there you go, the orc war boss has done his job and he didn't have to do anything. That's just confidence for you. So it looks like it's coming down to a regular battle now between my garrison and what remains of the orc force. Time to see if the skeleton sacrifice has done enough damage to allow us to pull through here. Bit of a battle at the back there, looks like that's going okay. Some of our frontline units are out of ammunition, that's not really helping. One thing that will help is that the enemy have been marauding around for the entire battle, so most of their units will be on low stamina, and that gives you all kinds of hidden debuffs that are pretty big in most Total War games. Also, they're not putting a massive amount of effort into attacking us. In some cases they're just walking towards us, so that's handy. We keep shooting them down. Maybe they were trying to preserve stamina, I don't know. We've got a blob forming here, but the legionaries are doing their job, keeping them away, except for the war boss. There again is the weakness of our strategy. Our checkerboard can be defeated by small units that go through the gaps. In this case I had some sentries there to sacrifice themselves and keep that war boss in position while everything else shoots at him. Those enemy archers won't be doing very much, so we're just ignoring them for now. And a bit later, well, it all just worked out. This situation ground down, and the numbers, as it turned out, were in our favour. We win. Their war boss here takes a massive volley of gunshots on his way out. The game proclaims that he has been wounded by this. Well, his head exploded, so I suppose he has been wounded. On the other hand, in Warhammer lore, if you're an orc and you're mad enough, you probably can survive having your head blown off. It'll just come back or something. That's the sort of thing that tends to happen. Well, we actually didn't kill that much of the enemy army on that topic. Lots of them escaped, so we've just killed maybe half of them, and all of the skeletons died. Not a very good trade and a Pyrrhic victory, but most of our guys survived, and most importantly, we keep the settlement. Well, for one more turn at least. There are still plenty of other threats in the area. The skeleton army is somewhat alive. I think their commander survives if they win the battle, even if everything else dies. So they'll run off into the desert and come back later, maybe to save us again. In the meantime, the orcs are going to attack us right now. They go on to attack Pyrrhus instead. And even with their half-strength army, that's plenty to defeat our small and half-strength garrison. Inconvenient. I decided to just take the L on this one, but we got lucky again. For the second time, the orcs just sack the settlement, so we still have it. It's still going to be making us a bit of money, probably. It could have gone worse. But the bad news in general is that the orcs will now be replenishing. So the losses they took in that battle are going to slowly be reversed, and there's not much we can do about it. And there, the beastmen show up as well, just to add that to the pile. So overall, the top end of our territory is in a very bad situation. Some more beastmen are spawning down at the bottom, as we can see here. What I'm going to do with this purple beastman faction is not declare war on them and ignore them. They might declare war on me, but they might not, and I'm going to just walk off as if they're not there. We really need to take our main force back to the core and then up north through the valley, both to defend on the way, and if nothing happens, to go out and try to put down some of these marauding armies that are raising all of our stuff. Speaking of which, by the next turn, they've also raised Pyrrhus, so that situation was finally over. We survived a couple of extra turns due to accidental sacking, but they're dead now. The beastmen have walked off, which is maybe good, maybe bad, who knows, and the rebels have stopped recruiting, so their army may not be powerful enough to take the settlement. That's something. However, there's a new rebellion growing in our core territory, the orcs again. Little bit chaotic, this domain we've got right here, really needs to be cleaned up. Continuing the mischief, the orcs come back around to begin another siege of our remaining territory and our castle. Well, it was going to be them or the vampires, so that was inevitable there. We also see the beastmen going south to attack one of those places I stole from Bretonnia. Not so much we can do here, but I was a bit suspicious of this balance bar. Here's another balance bar where I thought surely we have more chance than no chance at all. I was inspecting their stats. I thought these Ungor herds must be terrible. I think they are terrible, but who knows how auto-resolve factors that in. We probably would have lost that in the end, suffice to say. So there we go, we skip that one and lose the territory to another raising. We've lost about half of our territory to raising so far. This isn't going so well. Well, we can always build it back at some point as long as we don't totally die. And there was some good news. The vampires killed themselves running into the orcs at that siege. I thought maybe the orcs would be really damaged or something, but not really. They're still looking okay. I actually thought my army was dead a little bit at the moment, so I didn't try to sally or even check what the sally would have looked like. It's actually a better situation than I thought, which we'll see again in a second. In the meantime, we quickly take out that rebellion back in our core territory for free. That's nice and easy. And then our mummy friend reappears from the sands to start this battle, so forcing me to sally, and actually it's okay. Our force is at full strength. It's not that big, but it's good enough, and we have the advantage. Seeing that, I thought we might as well go for the auto-resolve, and indeed we take the victory, a Pyrrhic victory albeit. At least that's another siege out of the way for now. There is, though, another rebellion already next to the castle, so we've still got trouble up there, it's just never ending. And indeed, they are shortly besieging us, and because we took damage in that previous auto-resolve, now we have a slight disadvantage here. That means we can't auto-resolve that one. We could still go back and do it manually, but apparently I didn't feel like it or something. Well, we actually have no choice, because our old friend is back again. This mummy can't resist coming back to this castle turn after turn to start another battle. This time we still don't have an advantage with that mummy on board, but that balance bar is good enough for us to try out a manual resolve. The mummy is actually more passionate than I thought in battle. He just absolutely runs right towards the enemy on his own, half dead. Well, I say runs, he's sort of hobbling, being undead as he is. That's not going to go terribly well, but I do like the enthusiasm at the very least. So in he goes. He's being swarmed by bats all the way. The enemy actually didn't pay him too much attention. They mostly walked past him, let the bats kill him, and rushed all of their units towards my little hill in the distance. GG to the Tomb Kings though. A surprisingly passionate ally that I don't think we really deserve, especially considering that I'm planning on killing them. Well, here's the rest of the battle. Their dogs swarm our left flank, and one unit will just be sacrificed inside the dogs to keep them distracted while we shoot and throw a few axes into the pile. That might gradually take them down, but we are lacking in numbers, which is going to reduce our offensive potential, especially for ranged units. A nice bit of luck though, on the other flank, their heavy cavalry just stood there and got shot. They didn't attack us, which would have made our life pretty hard. They could have just run through our lines easily and taken us down and stopped us from shooting. They didn't do that for whatever reason, and that's absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, our guys in the middle are firing at the enemy commander, and even though we don't have that many gunners, we can still output some serious damage. We probably have loads of armor piercing damage on these gunners, and they're more powerful than regular gunners in Warhammer because we have small unit sizes. And indeed we do kill their commander before he reaches our lines with just that shooting. Perfect against the vampire army. We've sort of dealt with the dogs. We lost our unit that was sacrificed there, and some of the dogs are still rampaging across our lines, as are those harpies. It looks like we're getting kind of overwhelmed, but the balance bar is pretty good. The remaining enemy units don't have the strength, really, to kill us. We've taken out those cavalry without having to really fight them. That's absolutely perfect. Now we just have to wait and we'll probably win, because the enemy's skeletons and zombies won't be able to get through the armor on our legionnaires. That means our tiny numbers don't matter so much because we're not going to take damage either way. Plus, the enemy are going to start crumbling and then diminishing or disintegrating, meaning their health will drain. Crumbling doesn't really do much, especially in the SFO mod, but disintegrating kills them pretty fast. I feel like in vanilla it kills them even faster, like they die in 5 seconds if they go into disintegrating mode. Here they last like 15 seconds or something. Well, they died, I suppose that's the point. And we win another victory. Our mummy friend is still alive technically, because every time they die they come back with 1 health. So far, that investment in getting the Tomb Kings on our side has paid off many, many times. We still somehow hold that castle against the odds. More bad news for this turn though, of course. The beastmen are at it. They're moving towards that settlement down there. They didn't attack this turn, which is nice of them. They probably could have done. We also have another battle. They've got a single beastman, a giant one, going after the mummy out in the desert, and we can reinforce. We actually have a large advantage here, so nothing too much to worry about. I'm just going to auto-resolve this, although I didn't trust it. I thought something weird might happen because some small units are involved. That's when auto-resolve get especially unusual. Well, we do lose a bunch of units apparently. I feel like in a manual resolve we could have tanked this guy and run around in circles or something and just shot him to death. Well, doesn't matter, it's only a garrison, of course. The presence of the beastmen here is going to make it easier for me to attack them, because as they've come down while I'm going up, we've kind of met each other here, so I can sneak out of the mountain range and get close to them relatively quickly. Not fast enough that I can stop them from taking down the town, but they don't. They decide to come over and attack me. According to this balance bar, that's a terrible decision, and it indeed favours us if you consider that we're in the underway. Fighting in the underway will make it easy to fight mainly facing forwards and not be outflanked, so it's actually perfect for our little setup. I, in this battle, couldn't believe that the balance bar was this good. I was like, is it really that easy? We can just auto-resolve their whole stack with such confidence that we're probably not going to lose anything at all. Well, I ended up fighting it because I wanted to see not only the real balance bar, but how the underway fared with our plan. So here we are in a now reassessed to be balanced engagement. All the enemy can do is run right at us and get shot. Well, that will suit us. First shooting, it's the cannons. Those cannons aren't actually very good. They tend to kill the odd enemy in the unit, but once the enemy are really close we can't use them very much. We need some better artillery, which we'll get to sometime later, I suppose. The enemy's harpies, leading their force, just get shot to pieces when everything attacks them at once. And it's going to be a similar deal for their commander. By running just ahead of everything else, all of our guys fire at will onto him specifically, and he dies really fast. Again, his head explodes and he has been wounded. Probably the beastmen can come back from such wounds, but it looked a bit nasty. Once that's done, now we just do the plan. We check to make sure the enemy aren't going to go through any of the gaps, which they don't, and once they're stuck, we just have to wait for the shooting to do its thing. We've got a special unit here, some Greybeards Prospectors. They're essentially an upgrade of the Scouts, our main ranged unit. Elsewhere, the Scouts blast away. In this case, I wanted to check and actually watch the Scouts continuously to see whether the entire unit was firing. I suspected that only some guys in each unit were firing, but I think it just looks like that because of the long delays between each guy firing and the aforementioned lack of reload animation. Everybody's firing, I think. They're doing their job and the enemy are going downtown. All we have to do is wait to see what happens, and indeed, it goes extremely well. We take very few casualties, the enemy gets shot to pieces, and there's not too much they can do about that. Once they're stuck in melee, the AI doesn't know to go through the gaps. So the exploit continues to work. Here's a melee between a helicopter and some wolves. Well, neither side seems to be doing too badly in this fight, but the enemy's army overall did do quite badly. And we got the result that the auto-resolve right back at the beginning that I was questioning probably would have given us. In fact, it was better. So maybe we don't need to be so distrustful of the balance bar. Indeed, even though both sides have 1 stack's worth of troops, our stacks in our faction are balanced to be incredibly powerful. So a single stack of much cheaper enemy trash like all of these Ungor hordes really can't match up to us. In the next turn we go on to attack them again. They're surprisingly still alive because of the problem also mentioned before. We can't really finish off enemies in battles. Once they rout, they have a very good chance of getting away from us. So we essentially fight that army again, this time with an auto-resolve. We take virtually no damage and they take complete damage, so now they are dead. That's more like it. So while these beastmen have been a real pain in my side, actually killing them once our stack gets into contact with them, that's all fine. It also kills the other army that was nearby, the Brayherd force, which was just following around the main group. Handy, probably could have just auto-resolved them to kill them in this situation, so really doesn't save much time. And we also have to do this auto-resolve. A Lizardman rebellion was building up. They had no chance and they die as well. We're making lots of money off of all of these fights, and the associated grudges, which are basically quests to kill these guys, give us some money as well. All looking good right now. The thing is, the threat isn't totally over. There's still another Beastman army up north, and once again Al-Haik finds itself in trouble, being constantly besieged. All that grey stuff around it means there's tons of vampiric corruption as well. Overall, not the best situation up there. What we're going to do is not look at that, we're going south, because this was the point in the campaign when I noticed that those lizard men we were at war with earlier are still there. Luckily, they hadn't attacked me in the interim. They do have an army near our border, but as I approach them it goes away. The beastmen assault Al-Haik. I think there could have been something to be said there for trying the defense. We would have had some towers, I think. But I don't try it, and I take the balance bar result, which is that we get completely annihilated, and the settlement is raised. So the drama up there is finally over. We lost everything in the end. Just took a while. Now though, we're going for the final settlement of these lizard men. They're in a pretty good setup for us, because while they do have quite a lot of stuff here, it's split between 3 groups, and that's absolutely ideal. Due to us having Lightning Strike, the always powerful ability, we can come on in here and just take most of the stuff off the table, kill a small group, and that's that. Now we've killed our way towards the castle. What would be ideal here would be to go around the castle, lightning striking everything, and then attack the castle itself. However, we can't do that because we're too close, we're in the zone of control. The game's rules mean that I now have to attack the castle if I want to do anything. I can attack and retreat to try and do something, but it uses up movement points. And we don't really need to do anything fancy, because Lightning Strike works here as well. We can strike the castle to not fight everything that's outside, which happened to be most of their stuff in this case, allowing us to very easily take the castle. There's still going to be a stack out there, but we can take them down afterwards. Overall, the Lizard Man finishing off campaign went easier than expected, just a few simple auto-resolves. This army is ideal for me because it's so good in auto-resolve, and I do like to auto-resolve because it saves time and most likely gets you to the same result once gameplay performance is taken into account. But all that said, after the Lizardman force besieges me, I sally and we get a not very good balance bar, well, an even balance bar, but given what we saw before, and looking at that enemy army, it seems strange. This army is filled with pure trash, the skinks, the less than usual quality lizardmen. So why is this balanced and those other fights, including a castle assault, weren't? Well, I think it might be something to do with their commander. Well, obviously there's no way to actually know how the mysterious balance bar works, especially because we're in the SFO overhaul mod, and we're playing as a modded faction, which itself has another mod to make it compatible with SFO, to do to this faction the same balancing that SFO does to other factions. Whether that's been done accurately, who knows? We're too far off the beaten path to really expect balance at this stage. So for some reason, I'm going to be doing this fight at the start of the next part.